Hey guys, it is Jessica, and I am an ASHA certified speech language pathologist. As you can imagine, one of the questions that parents frequently ask me is how long will articulation therapy take for my child? So we're going to dive into that today. I will try to answer that question for you, and let's go. Okay, so the question is, how long will articulation therapy take for my child? Unfortunately, I don't have a one-size-fits-all easy answer for you. I have a feeling you probably knew that, but I will go ahead and explain to you how traditional articulation therapy works and what you can kind of expect with the process as your child is going through articulation therapy. Before I can do that, you have to understand the stages of traditional articulation therapy. I am saying traditional. There are actually many different approaches that speech therapists will use for teaching articulation skills. All of them tend to follow this same traditional pattern though. Again, it really depends on your child, what his or her age is, what his or her errors are, all of that kind of stuff all goes into how we as speech therapists make our treatment plan, which is why, you're coming to a specialist who knows the ins and outs of all of these things. So anyways, let's talk about the traditional hierarchy of articulation. I like to explain it to my parents and have you envision it as a big triangle. At the bottom of the triangle, we have auditory discrimination. And what we're going to do is we're going to work our way from the bottom of the triangle all the way up to the top, at the top being mastery. Sorry if that was in your ear. At the top being mastery and using the sound all the time in conversation and their speech sounding more clear. So again, the bottom of the triangle is auditory discrimination. I'm going to take a minute and make sure your child can hear the difference in their sounds. So for example, say your child is producing a K as a T. We're going to spend a lot of time making sure that I'm going to say words and do different games and activities to make it fun, that your child can hear the difference between K and T. That's the first step. The next step is going to be teaching your child how to say K, or whatever their sound is, in isolation. From there, we'll practice using their sound in syllables. So what I mean by syllables is saying like K, ki, kai, ko, ku, ake, eek, ike, oak, ook. So if you noticed, the K was at the beginning of a syllable, the K was at the end of the syllable. Okay? And then the next step after that is using that sound in a word. So when I'm talking about using a sound in words, the sound could occur at the beginning of the word, the middle of the word, or the end of the word. I'm going to spend time practicing making sure your student, your child, can say that sound if it occurs in any of those positions in the word. So I know I kind of rushed through those, but those first 4 steps, on average, again, depending on your child, take about a year. If I was writing an IEP plan for a student, I would give myself a year to teach those skills. So year 1, you're probably not going to be hearing a lot of difference in your child's conversational speech. You might, I'm not saying you can't, but if you don't, that's not a bad thing either. Really and truly, the easiest thing to compare it to is like breaking a bad habit. It's going to take a lot of practice to get over, putting your tongue in the right place. And sometimes it's not even a bad habit. Sometimes, your child really can't hear that sound to start out with. So anyways, that is the first year of therapy, approximately. Next, we have from using the word in a sentence or using the sound in a word to using the word in a sentence. This step I usually give, sometimes people do phrases and then sentences. I like to do like short, simple sentences. For example, the cat is yellow, and then move to like more longer, complex sentence. The cat went to the garage to catch a mouse. I don't know. So that's the next level, is moving on to sentences. I usually will stay at phrases and sentences. Again, if I were writing an IEP goal, I would write it for a year. So now we're doing 2 years of speech therapy and we're still not at the conversation level yet. Finally, 2 years has rolled by. Now we're at the top of the triangle and we are practicing using those sounds in conversation. I would probably, for that 3rd year, maybe if the child is able to read, do a reading goal and a conversational speech goal. This is the year that it all starts to really come together and, kind of just tie itself up into a pretty little bow. And hopefully you'll be able to really start seeing some changes in your child's speech. But like I said, this is not a one-size-fits-all sort of situation. Some things that can change the progress, how quickly your child makes progress, is first of all, are you working on it at home with your child? I completely understand that life as a parent is completely crazy and it's actually a lot harder than it sounds to work on extra homework at home. So you'll not find judgment from me on that. But I will say that does drastically change the progress and the speed of the rate of therapy. Is if you're taking 5 minutes, just 5 minutes every day to work on the therapy at home, just practicing saying the sounds that your speech therapist has told you you need to work on. The other thing that can really affect it can be your child's, cognitive abilities. This is kind of uncomfortable to talk about sometimes, but it does play a factor in how long speech therapy for articulation takes. If your child is struggling academically and has a bunch of goals in addition to the articulation goals, or has a bunch of other things that he or she is working on, that will also probably slow down the progress of the articulation therapy. On the other hand, if your child is a very, very quick learner and they pick up on new skills really quickly, they may go through all of these levels in a year or a year and a half. I've seen that happen too. So that's why I'm saying it really does depend on your individual situation, your child's abilities, your commitment to, practicing at home, your speech therapist's commitment to giving you homework to practice at home. Sometimes that doesn't happen either. So if you're wanting to do this, be sure and ask your speech therapist, hey, I'm ready to do some speech therapy homework at home. Can you give me some ideas and tell me what to work on? And he or she will be more than happy to get that for you. Or at least they should be. Okay. So as you can see, like I said, there's a lot of variables, a lot of factors in place when determining how long articulation therapy lasts. On average, if your child is perfectly normal and following my perfectly scripted plan, it would take about 3 years. Can it take less? Absolutely. Can it take more? Unfortunately, yes. There are other times, it also depends a lot on their age. Sometimes when they're young, they just grab onto things and they pick it up really quickly. If they've been in therapy for a while and they're just stuck on an R maybe, sometimes that just takes a really long time to clean up, and that's not unusual at all. So hopefully that answers your question, giving you a little twist from the mind of an SLP. It may have just given you more questions. I'm not really sure. But if you found this video helpful, I would just love it if you would take a second to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Again, I just want to say articulation therapy can be really straightforward, but a lot of judgment goes into the, professional SLP mind of to what kind of pattern I'm going to, or what kind of approach I'm going to take, and how long I'm going to work on these sounds, or what sounds I'm going to start working on. There's a philosophy and, a thought process that goes into how we choose these things. So I would always recommend to ask your speech therapist if you have any questions. And, if you're not in speech therapy, but you do have questions, and maybe get an evaluation from an SLP who can help you out.